Camilla Luddington, best known for her role as the brilliant and compassionate Dr. Jo Wilson on Grey's Anatomy, has always captivated fans with her on-screen talent and emotional depth. But off-screen, the actress has been quietly navigating a very personal and very real health battle, one she only recently felt strong enough to share with the world. In an emotional moment on her iHeartRadio podcast Call It What It Is, which she co-hosts with fellow Grey's alum Jessica Capshaw, Camilla revealed that she had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune disorder that significantly affects thyroid function and energy levels. It's a condition that, although common, often goes undiagnosed for years. And for Camilla, that was exactly the case. For as long as she could remember, she had felt tired, beyond the usual fatigue of a working mom or a busy actress. She had always described herself as slothy, someone who cherished naps and often felt like she was just dragging herself through the day. But it had become such a normal part of her life that she didn't think much of it. Until her yearly medical checkup uncovered something unexpected, Camilla shared with raw honesty how the moment felt when her doctor casually pointed out that her blood work looked great, except for one little thing. That little thing turned out to be the first clue that something deeper was going on. She recalled the chilling moment when she first heard the phrase autoimmune disease leave her doctor's mouth. Her first thought was, what the F.K.? And who could blame her? For someone who had been attributing her sluggishness and chronic fatigue to the pressures of motherhood or the demands of filming a hit TV show, suddenly learning that her body was attacking its own thyroid was overwhelming. But even as the diagnosis sank in, there was also a strange sense of comfort, relief, even. Because for the first time, she had an answer. There was a reason for why she'd felt the way she had for so long. She wasn't just imagining it. She wasn't lazy, or unmotivated or overly dramatic. She had been living with an undiagnosed medical condition, and now she could finally begin the journey toward healing. What made the moment even more poignant was Camilla's vulnerability in admitting that, deep down, she had started to question herself. She confessed to having health anxiety and wondered whether she had been gaslighting herself all this time, telling herself she was fine when something had clearly been wrong. It's a moment so many people can relate to, especially those with chronic conditions that often fly under the radar or are dismissed as just being tired. Camilla's honesty gave a voice to those silent struggles. And her courage in opening up about this diagnosis wasn't just about sharing news, it was about reaching out. She wanted others to know they weren't alone. That even someone who plays a doctor on TV can be blindsided by their own health. That even celebrities have moments of fear, confusion, and unexpected strength. And as she put it so simply but powerfully, this was just the beginning. She's now on medication. She's on the road to recovery. And while it may be a journey, it's one she's finally ready to walk, with purpose, with hope, and with the support of a community that's now hearing her story for the very first time. As Camilla Luddington sat behind the mic with her longtime friend and co-host Jessica Capshaw, the air between them was heavy with understanding. This wasn't just another episode of their podcast. This was personal. Camilla's voice trembled slightly as she continued to explain the impact Hashimoto's thyroiditis had already had on her life, long before she ever knew what it was called. She wasn't new to feeling exhausted or mentally foggy, and she admitted that there were times when she chalked it all up to being a working mom, to being in her 40s, or simply to burnout. But there was something different about this exhaustion. It wasn't the kind of tiredness that went away after a full night's sleep or a relaxing weekend. This was the kind of fatigue that wrapped itself around her like a weight, one that she carried silently through her daily life, even as she smiled on red carpets, memorized pages of dialogue, or cradled her children at bedtime. The diagnosis, though scary, gave her the language and clarity she had been unknowingly seeking for years, and while Camilla remained composed, there was a rawness in her reflections that revealed just how deeply this had all affected her. She talked about how people had always laughed along when she joked about being slow-moving or needing naps, but behind that self-deprecating humor was a real struggle that no one else could see. For Camilla, who had become used to pushing through, pretending everything was fine, and performing, both in her career and in her personal life, this sudden truth came as both a burden and a blessing. The burden of knowing she would have to manage a lifelong autoimmune disease, but the blessing of finally understanding what had been wrong. She could stop pretending. She could stop blaming herself. And for the first time, she could start healing. Jessica, ever the supportive friend and podcast partner, kept the mood light when needed, even jokingly quoting Finding Nemo with, "Just keep swimming." And Camilla smiled, because sometimes you need that levity. But behind that joke was a quiet acknowledgement of what Camilla was really going through, a silent battle so many women fight, especially when society expects them to be on all the time. Whether as mothers, as professionals, or in Camilla's case, as a public figure, the pressure to perform can be crushing. And when you're feeling like a shadow of yourself, even showing up can feel impossible. That's the reality of living with an invisible illness like Hashimoto's, where the symptoms aren't obvious to the outside world, but internally, they can be life-altering. As Camilla explained the treatment plan she's now on, medication. To balance her thyroid hormone levels, she made it clear that this was just the start of her wellness journey. It's not a quick fix. It's not a miracle cure. It's a process. One that will likely involve lifestyle changes, self-awareness, and lots of grace. But what's different now is that she no longer feels in the dark. And perhaps more importantly, she no longer feels alone. Sharing her story with the public wasn't an easy decision, but it was an intentional one. Camilla wanted to create space for conversations about health that are often avoided, about women's fatigue being dismissed, about the shame of chronic illness, about the internalized guilt that comes with not feeling normal. By putting her story out into the world, Camilla is not only reclaiming her own narrative, she's giving countless others permission to do the same. Camilla Luddington's journey with Hashimoto's thyroiditis isn't just about a diagnosis, it's about finding her voice in a sea of silence that so many women have endured for far too long. On her podcast, as she opened up further, there was a shift in her tone. It wasn't just vulnerability anymore, it was strength. She began talking about the emotional toll of constantly feeling like something was wrong and not being able to put a name to it. For years, she felt like she was betraying her body for not having the energy she once had. Now, she realizes her body was never betraying her, it was screaming for help, and she had finally listened. Camilla admitted to moments of doubt where she questioned whether she was overreacting. She struggled with the idea that her constant tiredness might be just in her head. That's where her health anxiety came in, a quiet voice that whispered maybe she was imagining it all, maybe she was just lazy, maybe it wasn't serious enough to bring up. These internal battles were exhausting in their own right, and they reflected a broader issue in society, how women are often taught to dismiss their own pain, to minimize their symptoms, and to keep going no matter what. That's exactly why Camilla felt the urgency to speak out now. Her story wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to the countless women listening who saw themselves in her words. She shared that while the medication would help regulate her thyroid hormone levels, healing would require more than just pills. It would take time, patience, and perhaps most importantly, self-compassion. Camilla described how she's learning to listen to her body again, to rest without guilt, and to stop seeing exhaustion as weakness. She wants to normalize what it looks like to go through something like this while still trying to maintain a career, raise children, and live publicly. It's not glamorous, it's messy and it's hard. But it's also real. And for the fans who have admired her on-screen resilience for years, it was powerful to see that same resilience shine through in real life, not in spite of her vulnerability. But because of it, throughout the podcast, Camilla also reflected on how grateful she felt for her support system. Her husband, friends, co-stars, and fans, those who reached out when she subtly hinted at not feeling well, those who showed up without judgment, made the world of difference. But she emphasized that not everyone has that kind of support, which is why opening up matters even more. By being public about her diagnosis, Camilla hopes to build a kind of digital support system for others. She wants to foster a sense of community among those navigating similar journeys, people who may feel scared, ashamed, or alone in their health battles. She wants them to know that they're not broken. They're not weak. And they're certainly not alone. Camilla's revelation is more than just celebrity news, it's a wake-up call. It's a reminder that even the people we admire and think have it all together are fighting invisible battles. And sometimes, it takes immense courage to simply say, something's not right, and to keep showing up anyway. As Camilla Luddington steps into this new chapter of her life, she's not just a star on Grey's Anatomy, she's becoming a voice for authenticity, for health awareness, and for the strength that lies in telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. As Camilla Luddington continues to navigate life post-diagnosis, her journey has started to reflect something deeper than just personal healing. It's beginning to resonate as a story of empowerment, of facing the unknown with grace, and of reclaiming control. The reality is, living with Hashimoto's thyroiditis isn't about bouncing back overnight. It's about understanding the rhythms of your own body, acknowledging the limits without shame, and learning to thrive within a new normal. Camilla is doing just that, one day, one dose, one honest conversation at a time. And in a world where perfection is constantly projected, her honesty is a breath of fresh air. What makes Camilla's openness even more remarkable is the timing. At a stage in her career where she continues to be visible and active, taking on roles, parenting, podcasting, and maintaining a public image, she chose to be vulnerable. Not when it was convenient or curated, but when it was raw and real. By doing so, she's not just advocating for health awareness, she's redefining what strength in the spotlight really looks like. fans who have followed her for years now see her not just as Jo Wilson from Grey's Anatomy, but as a real woman navigating a very human struggle, and bravely letting others into that experience. Her podcast co-host, Jessica Capshaw, offered both comic relief and unwavering support throughout their discussion, highlighting the importance of having someone in your corner when you're processing a life-altering health update. Their candid dialogue made the topic of autoimmune disease feel less intimidating, more approachable. And perhaps most importantly, it helped dismantle the stigma surrounding chronic illness and invisible struggles. Camilla's willingness to shine a light on her journey encourages listeners to reflect on their own health, and maybe finally take that appointment they've been putting off, or ask their doctor the tough questions they've been scared to voice. Camilla has also become unexpectedly relatable in a way many fans didn't anticipate. For people battling fatigue, brain fog, unexplained weight changes, or general discomfort, symptoms that are often brushed off, her story validates their concerns. She's proof that even someone who plays a doctor on one of the most iconic medical shows in the world can be blindsided by a diagnosis. And if she can go through it, so can others. If she can find answers after years of confusion, then maybe someone watching this video will feel encouraged to keep seeking answers too. At the heart of it all, Camilla Luddington's story is one of resilience, reflection, and responsibility. She isn't just processing this diagnosis privately, she's using it to start important conversations that matter to so many. Her journey doesn't have a dramatic ending or a perfect resolution yet, and that's okay. What she's created instead is a safe space for others to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel less alone in their own silent battles. And perhaps, in doing so, she's not only healing herself but also helping others take the first step toward their own healing. So while this might have started as a medical diagnosis, it's grown into something so much more, a powerful story of acceptance, courage, and the quiet strength that comes from simply being honest. And for Camilla Luddington, that honesty might just be the most important role she's ever played.